All right, everyone. So to revise and work through and make your district writing assessment better, I'm going to make these series of videos so that you can go through step by step. The first thing is making sure we know where to go in Canvas here to look at the revision assignment. So logging into Canvas, clicking on our correct course, and then clicking on modules. Here in modules, you will see at the bottom here the greatest sin revision. You will click on that, and here are your prompts, and here is the page to refer to for the prompt. The biggest problem that I found in almost all of the papers, about 80 to 90% of them, was that we did not fully understand what they were asking us to do. And so understanding for the ACT, any test, any question, anywhere, is what is the question asking itself. So first they had you read these sources and explain that this is going to be an essay that synthesizes at least 3 of the sources for support. So we're wanting to at least note that the book itself is one source and using a couple of others as you go. What might help, though, is to know what it is you're answering so you can pick the appropriate article to read in source. So the prompt itself says, in The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, the 3 main characters are all guilty of major sin. Using the supporting material provided and the novel itself, address the question, whose sin was the worst? To answer this thoroughly, you must identify the character, the sin in question, and the reason why this sin is worse than the other character's sins. Using the attached documents and your copy of the novel itself, develop an answer to the above question. So I've copied over here into this sample that I will have linked here for you as well in this assignment, a copy of the prompt itself. So, what is the question asking in and of itself? Well, the main question is, whose sin was the worst? Sin was the worst. So you have to decide which character of the 3 characters, Hester, Dimmesdale, or Chillingworth, had the worst sin. Then, to answer this thoroughly, you must identify the character, the sin in question, and the reason why the sin is worst. So we need the character identified clearly, which sin is in question, and the reason why the sin is worse than the others. Those are the main parts. This first part is just background information, which you can use later. Also note that when we are doing this, we need to use both the attached documents and the copy of the novel itself. This is huge. We've got to make sure that we use both of those things. Also note that on the instructions, it also said to use at least 3 sources. So try to use multiple ones when you go through it. So when we know that, then we can answer the question itself. The next part is your thesis. Thesis is just like our journals now, just like any other paper. We rewrite the question into the answer, doing what we need. So for this case, I personally am just going to copy and paste this very first sentence in as my opening piece. You could use any information you want. You could develop it more and further if you want, depending on what level you're at and your own personal interests, etc. Granted, if you give more development and more background or more insight or whatever it is you're talking about, the deeper and the better your paper will be. But at least this would give us a bare minimum of what we're talking about here. Then we do exactly what is right up here. I'm identifying the character. Dimmesdale committed the worst sin. Then I need to identify the sin in question. For me, that is not admitting his sin. And the reason why? It hurt Hester, Pearl, and himself. So there I've answered the question. Basic, done, finished what I need to do for that. Body paragraph, same concept as our journals and everything else. Topic, sentence. We need to identify the first thing that we're talking about. So while adultery is bad, which is referring to Hester's sin, so now I'm going to show maybe why his is worse. Dimmesdale's truths were sin of not admitting that he had an affair with Hester. So now I know I'm going to talk about his worst sin, which is not admitting that he had an affair. Then I need to explain what I mean by this. This hurt Hester by leaving her alone to face her own demons, the town, and raise a child of her own. Now I need to support what I've been saying with evidence from the articles. So I might say, according to one of these articles here, let's say here in one of these things, it says something about it says something about him hurting her. Let's see if we find something in Hester here. Where's Hester? There we go. We talk about public scorn and the punishment designed to shame her. So let's say I use this quote here. I put it in. Enduring public scorn, Hester becomes the only sin in the book who manages to remain unrepentant. She retains her dignity despite the public desire to shame her. And then I can say Hester was alone in the period of society raising a child alone, which also causes some problems here. Which supports this idea as well. Then I need to cite my source. You can copy and paste that in here as well. It's at the end of each of these. In text citation, copy and paste, right? Oh. So we copy and paste in our citation here. Then I need to connect this evidence in, explain how and why. Otherwise, we don't get that synthesis happening. So I need to tie in with this. This statement corroborates Hawthorne, and I need to fix this. Hawthorne, when in the novel he states, and I use an example of this with either an example or a quote from the book that supports it. I could talk about her being in the jail alone, her being sick, her standing on the scaffold and fainting, whatever it might be. I use that example, and then I cite that source, which is the last name of the author, Hawthorne. Through all of this, we see how Hester was utterly alone and could have received a more stable life and repented of her sin fully if only Dimmesdale had acknowledged and assisted her. Then, if I wanted to add more information or other connections or other development that you might have that goes with this idea, you could bring that up here. Otherwise, we move on and move to the next idea and stuff like this. So, for here, I'm going to transition into the next topic sentence. Not only did Hester suffer, but so did the child. And then I bring up how hurting people is worse, especially an innocent child, etc., and so forth. Then I would transition. Next topic sentence. And talk about how he hurt himself. My third point of reason why. And at the end, I want to conclude and tie it all together, summarize, and restate the thesis, just like normal. The other thing that I ask you to do in a conclusion is answer the so what question. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean to say, now you might be asking, so what? Don't ask that. Don't say that. Please, do not write that. But what you do want to do is make them think. Help them connect to why this paper was important. So for example, I might use with this paper, well, we all sin and it causes unintentional harm to others at times beyond our control. If we see through Dimsdale that if we don't admit our faults and errors, that we can cause worse harm to others and ourselves that could be avoided. And then I could go on further if I wanted to, but that in itself at least leaves a thinking about it. If you're talking about Chillingsworth and his sins, about how destructive he is and how evil he is, you could talk about how there's evil people in the world and we have to keep our eyes open for the Chillingsworths in our own lives, etc. Whatever it is you're talking about. Now, I chose to talk about the 3 reasons why. You yourself could talk about Dimsdale himself, what his sin was, and the reason why in separate paragraphs. This could be a paragraph, this could be a paragraph, this could be a paragraph. Or you can simply identify these things and talk about 3 reasons why and compare more against the other 2. That's okay too. However, the organization and the structure should be similar to what you're seeing here. I hope this helps. Ask me any questions if you need to. This is due by October 25th, and we do not have time for things to be late because it is going to be the end of the quarter. So get these things in, and good luck. Let me know what I can do to help you guys.